costume, except that it was black and he wore no mask. It didn't matter. I was sure it looked good on him, because everything looked amazing on him. He was a fellow junior at my school. He ordered a large drip coffee at 4:30 p.m. on his way to work, and he smiled a lot. My crush had bloomed when we'd wound up in the same AP calculus class at the beginning of the semester. 12 non-consecutive hours of his sweet smile and kind eyes was all it had taken for my heart to get hopelessly entangled with his. When he turned around in class last week and told me he hoped to see me at the event, I'd spun a fantasy. I floated invisibly through high school, not a main part of any social strata, so I wasn't in his circle of friends. But that circle had changed since he'd broken up with his popular/terrible girlfriend. Why couldn't I swoop in while he was on the outs of his clique? On my mom's old sewing machine, I'd create the most magnificent costume and wear it during my shift. He'd see me through the window, abandon his job, and rush over to tell me how talented and amazing I was. Our capes would float behind us as we spun around in a tornado of passion and coffee cups and muffins. Okay, so like most of my imaginary musings, this dream was a bit far-fetched, but I'd taken confidence in my neatly placed stitches. If only my costume wasn't packed away in my backpack. Though the neighboring businesses had all gotten in on the fun, Paris had declared costumes cringy when I'd shown up for work this morning and banned them for the employees. So here I was, in the baggy jeans and long-sleeved shirt I'd thrown on right after I'd hopped out of bed. Garb that was unlikely to get me into any kind of tornado of passion. Perhaps I could change and go over to the bookstore after work, though. Casually peruse the shelves. Bring the tornado of passion to his workplace. Hey, Sonia, can you come over here for a second? I handed the sandwich to the waiting customer and walked over to Paris. I'm about to put a fresh batch of muffins into the oven. Don't worry about that. We're all out of mix anyway. Paris gave me a sweet smile, and it was such a contrast to her previous testiness. I put my mental guard up. Hannah, my newest co-worker, rounded the counter. I waved at her, and she responded with a nod, then turned to the register to clock in. I had no idea what her full name was. She was Hannah, one word in my head, like Gaga or Beyoncé. She was new this year, had moved from somewhere in California. Though I'd seen her around school, we were usually on different shifts. I'm so glad Hannah's here. I need to head out soon, and I'm sure the two of you could cover the place until closing, right? I'd opened. I didn't want to close as well. Plus, I wouldn't get to go over to the bookstore at all then. It closed an hour before we did. Hannah didn't look up from the computer. Saturday afternoons are busy. There's usually 3 of us on. And the bookstore event will make us busier, I added. Paris waved a hand. Oh, now, I'm sure you'll both be fine. Token protest lodged. Hannah walked away, leaving me alone with our boss's daughter. I drifted closer. I have plans. The plan was simply changing my outfit, but Paris didn't need to know that. A customer walked up and opened his mouth. Excuse me. Without looking at him, Paris held up a hand, and the man subsided, which wasn't a huge surprise. Paris's fragile girl-next-door vibe tended to get most men twisted around her tiny fingers. Her wide blue eyes turned pleading. They were usually pleading when she asked me to cover for her, which happened a lot. Please, I have a party to go to tonight, and I need to get my hair and nails done. I bit my tongue to keep from asking if it was another high school party. Paris had an odd affinity for showing up at those, though she